There's been a whole lot of buzz about Wonder Woman these days. She's a character that has always been one of DC's most iconic, yet still managed to be incredibly underrated, due to a history of the publisher attempting to reinvent her to appease popular demand. Creator William Moulton Marston has said of her that Wonder Woman is a psychological propaganda for the new type of woman who should, I believe, rule the world. So let's take a look at why with these top 10 surprising facts about Wonder Woman Part 2. And at 10 we have bondage roots. In our last video we talked a bit about Wonder Woman's creator William Moulton Marston and how he was very into bondage, along with his polyamorous relationship with wife Elizabeth and lover Olive Bryne. But what were some of these bondage-inspired touches? The inspiration for Diana's bracelets came from bracelets worn by Olive. And the lasso of truth? Well, Wonder Woman would tie people up and they would submit by revealing the truth. But fun fact, Marston also invented the polygraph, so that definitely had something to do with that whole truth lasso. And at 9 we have the NBC pilot. Back in 2011, a pilot for a Wonder Woman television series was released by NBC, starring Friday Night Lights star Adriana Palacki. It wasn't picked up though, but it did manage to prevent Smallville from running a storyline with the character, leading them to later release a story arc in the show's comic book continuation in 2013, titled Olympus. And at 8 we have the Wonder Woman Foundation. Previous DC president and editor-in-chief Jeanette Kan started the Wonder Woman Foundation, in honor of Wonder Woman's 40th anniversary. Kan was the woman who pulled DC out of the infamous 1978 DC implosion, and oversaw the groundbreaking releases of The Dark Knight Returns, Watchmen, The Sandman, and History of Violence. Since its start, the foundation has given out over $350,000 in grants to over 40 women, in categories exemplified by the inspirational characteristics of Wonder Woman: women taking risks, women pursuing equality and truth, women helping other women, and women striving for peace. Pretty cool. And at 7 we have Taco Whiz. So at this number is one of my favorite Wonder Woman issues to mock. During a cringeworthy story arc in 1993, Wonder Woman was unemployed, which is a weird motif that's been present since her early days first coming to America, where she paid off a nurse to take her identity and employment. She gets a job at the fictional Taco Bell, called Taco Whiz, which is apparently the only place she could get a job with her credentials. She also appears on the cover wearing a Taco Whiz cap and holding a tray of food, saying, "Hey, it's a living." Nothing against making a living, but you know, seems like one hell of a way to depower a superhero. But hey, Buffy had to do it too.
You're on the clock. Buffy's cooked up a new way to make money.
And at 6, the Wonder Woman logo. You might be familiar with the stylized WW emblem that is synonymous with Wonder Woman these days, but that wasn't always the case. During the Bronze Age, then DC President Jeanette Kan ordered a revamp of the character's appearance, and artist Milton Glaser decided it was time to replace the eagle on her bodice with a WW instead. It was then incorporated by letterer Todd Klein onto the monthly title's logo for her. And at 5 we have Gloria Steinem. Feminist advocate Gloria Steinem was a huge fan of Wonder Woman's. She has stated about the character that Marston had invented Wonder Woman as a heroine for little girls, and also as a conscious alternative to violence for comic books for boys. And at 4 we have Roe vs. Wade inspiration. If you watched the US election coverage this past year, Roe vs. Wade is something you've probably heard more often than not these days. It was a groundbreaking US Supreme Court decision that stated a woman had the right to choose to get an abortion. Now when this happened, a science fiction author named Samuel R. Delaney, who worked for Steinem and her magazine Miss, was inspired to write a Wonder Woman story in which she protected an abortion clinic. It never went to the presses though, due to Steinem disapproving of Diana being out of costume, therefore having a depowered feel to her, but more on that later. And at 3 we have the invisible plane. We talked a bit about Diana's invisible plane in our last video, but did you know it was a creation of hers when she was young? It's capable of flying over 2,000 miles per hour and sent out rainbow rays that would break through the mist around Paradise Island, her birth home. It also had a built-in radio. Turns out Diana is a bit of a low-key mechanic. In the 50s the plane was revised to be a jet, and she would continue to use it up until 1973. It also became a bit of a character. Due to some tinkering gremlins, the plane developed intelligence and the ability to talk, and actually became her buddy, who even got along with Steve Trevor. And at number 2 we have LGBTQ icon. Back in 1954, an American-German psychiatrist named Frederick Wertham wrote a book titled Seduction of the Innocent, claiming that superheroes were harmful for children. While Marston's earlier Wonder Woman comics did contain a lot of sapphic undertones, Wertham referred to her as the lesbian counterpart to Batman, who he also claimed was gay. Coming from an entirely female Amazon society, her home culture has been said to be free from the shackles of heteronormativity, and has no concept of gender roles and sex. Greg Rucka has also stated that she's bisexual, noting that she has to be queer and obviously had same-sex relationships on an island surrounded by beautiful women. I mean, he's got a point. And finally, at number 1 we have Steinem saved Wonder Woman. So the 70s weren't really a good time for Wonder Woman. As we mentioned in our last video that she was depowered during that time. Commonly referred to as her lost decade, DC ordered for the character to undergo an update, which apparently meant ditching her costume and stripping her of her powers. Instead, she became a fashionable super spy who was more of a damsel in distress and boyfriend obsessed rather than an independent woman superhero. But did you know that it was actually Gloria Steinem Steinem who put an end to these shenanigans. She put Wonder Woman on the cover of the first issue of Miss Magazine in 1972, which caught the eye of Warner Communications, DC Comics owner, who was an investor in the magazine. So luckily for us, the decision was reversed. There we have it, guys. Any facts you think we should have included? Give us a shout in the comments below and let us know your thoughts. But for now, I'm Kelly Pally, and you've been watching Top 10 Nerd. Catch you guys in the next one.